Hello aspirants, welcome back to the Hindu analysis dated 30th of November 2018. So under the front page we have this news which talks on Imran looks for a fresh start. So this is with respect to the post breaking ceremony of the Kartarpur Corridor which was being kick-started on both sides of India and Pakistan. On limelight of it, there were a group of journalists who have been actually invited to the Kartarpur Corridor coverage. On this particular coverage, it was the Prime Minister of Pakistan was made and is been making his confirmations on calling to have a fresh start during the term of his revival in the dialogue. So this particular person who has now been elected as a Prime Minister of Pakistan, so he is saying that to whatever was happened in the past, let's forget the past and let's start with a fresh. So to whatever the dialogue has to happen, let it happen with a reviving dialogue with the new Prime Minister, so that to whatever the talks has to happen, let it start in a fresh way. So this is something where they wanted to put a decade old issues in terms of the terrorism and also the other things which has actually been stalling both the countries to come forward and have their talks of the same. And apart from that, he also mentioned that he was not responsible for the past to what had happened, rather he would be accountable if he breaks it, any of the promises to what he has been making now. So basically he is calling for a fresh talk so that to whatever the issues there between India and Pakistan can be resolved in a amicable way. So this is on that. And there were also journalists who raised the questions on the pending investigations on 1993 and also the 2008 Mumbai attacks. So we also know that now we have been celebrating with the 10th year of the Mumbai attacks to the tragic to what had happened in 2008. So this was also been posed as a question to Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan. So he had said that to whatever the cases was being against the Dawood Ibrahim or the Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Khan, he had said that now the UN National Security Council has been remained operational despite the Pakistan's overwhelming ban. So where they have banned on this particular aspects of Mr. Asif Zahid. And apart from that, he was also talking on the UN sanctions which is also already been on him, and this is also the cases when respect to 2008 is being pending. So it is under the trial right now, the sub judice. So once the situations is being settled off, then the persons would be punished for the same to whatever the grounds they have to be done. So they would be deciding on those particular aspects. So here again he talks on those things where the past is only for learning, but in the future that is what they wanted to move forward, not to live in what had happened. Rather he wants to create a new image with respect to he sworn to be as a Prime Minister of Pakistan, a new Prime Minister. So this is what he has been making out here, which means that he is mooting to be a good move where he wants to have a fresh talk. So he is not willing to carry over the old stigmas to what was there. So that is the main intention to what has been posted out here. And this news, taking Verma's office duties, not a transfer, says the center. So we know that this particular news we have been repeatedly been reading on to what is the issues all about. So here it is a little confirmation to what has been given on the CBI Director Alok Verma. You can just look on to it. So I don't have any prominence in doing, you can just go with that. And here you have the ISIS which was actually been there in yesterday's news as well, where ISRO is a one which has created this for the Earth observation satellite. So mainly what you have to know is that this particular India's fire rocket which was almost carrying 31 satellites, which would be including of the Earth observations and from the other countries as well. And this is India's the 45th flight of the Polar satellite launch vehicle, and you should know to why and on which are the areas it will be having or used as a purposes. So this would be used in the field of agriculture, forestry, soil survey, geology, coastal zone studies, inland water studies, environmental monitoring, pollution detection from industries. And apart from that, the carrier of this is the PSLV C-43, and it has been lifted the time, you can skip it off. And apart from that, the 30 other satellites were dropped into the designed orbit one by one after the ISIS was been placed into the orbit. So one more thing to what you have to know is that the GSAT-11, which is India's heaviest satellite, is set to be launched on December 5th. So by next week this has also been ready. There's upcoming missions of the ISRO, and the second upcoming mission is that the GSAT-7A, which is actually being planned for December 14th. When it comes to Chandrayaan 2, which has been planned for 2019. So these are the upcoming missions to what is been pending from with the ISRO. And this entire detail to what we have seen here, you have it under the page 7. So I recommend you all to first cut this and paste it in your notes to whatever you are making to be as a current affairs. The same thing is what they would be given in terms of words, so that you have in a pictorial way. This would be catching your attraction much than reading the article there. So I request you all to cut this point and keep it at your notes, so this becomes important for us. And here you have the fuel prices fall on oil slip, the rupee gain. So this is with respect to the rupee fall which was been there. So now the rupee fall to whatever the India was been seeing, now it has taken a gain. So why is it taken a gain is because of the fuel prices which has been falling. So here the fuel prices have hit a new lows, and this has really allowed even the petrol falling to an 8-month low, and apart from that the 4-month low on the back of the falling of the global oil prices. So we know that the crude oil prices was also been decreased. On laminate of it, even the petrol rates which has also been there. So now the petrol in Delhi cost is 73.24 paisa per litre, which was following a 33 paisa cut, wherein in diesel it is 68.13 per litre, which has been following with 36 paisa cut. So here you can see here it is 73.24 and here it is 68.13. So this is with respect to November. Here they are showing the June's and the other part. So this is how the map looks on for. And apart from that, you should also know why this Indian basket of crude oil is actually seeing a downward trajectory. So this is with respect to the crude oil prices in the international level, which has been per barrel it is $59.9 on Wednesday, and it was as low as compared to $85.2 barrel on October 4th. So if you see in the month of like almost, which is nearing like 2 months, in 2 months from 85 it has been dropped to 59 rupees. As this has been dropped, the petrol prices also been simultaneously getting a fall. So these fuel prices are actually a function of the crude oil prices and the rupee dollar parity. So to whatever the rupee, since it's gaining the rupee gain here, in sense appreciation has been happening, and here the dollar depreciation has been happening. So it is the rupee and dollar parity which has been showing, and apart from that the crude oil prices which also been internationally lowering, it has affected so that even the fuel prices is been following down. So this is how you need to connect it. And apart from that, you should not forget that there is also an OPEC meeting. So under the G20 summit on December 6th, they are having an OPEC meeting, and in this OPEC meeting they would be discussing on the production cuts. So in the production cuts, if they come across and they discuss to what to be done, then this $59.9 per barrel will not remain the same. So which means that to whatever the fall is been seen now, it might be increasing in the future, as there would be a production cuts to what they would be discussing under the OPEC meeting, which has been due on December 6th. So once this is being seen, you can see a lot of changes to what would be happening, so that again there would be a variations in terms of the crude oil prices and the fuel prices, and even with the petrol and the diesel, the both of them together is a fuel prices, you could see certain changes for the same. And this supply pressure is very much there because of the record production, and you should also know the production levels in USA and even in Russia has been ramping up. So based on this is also you can see that there would be a supply pressure as the supply becomes more, and the rupee is also been stabilized at 70 per dollar. So this is with respect to rupee, which was almost hitting like 74 and 73 rupees. It's now getting stabilized to 70 rupees. So these are two factors which is being given, and this is how the particular part, which means that we are talking the rupee gain, which means that it has got 70 rupees per dollar apart compared to the 73 rupees. So on limelight of this, now the petrol prices and diesel price has been falling, which means that it has been as a dip. So this becomes important for us, and not to remember the rupee things on all, just know how did they actually fall down. So what was the reasons for it. So that's how you need to do it. And under the page 2, you have this news which talks on the Supreme Court orders the public hearing on Polavaram. So this is the actually the Polavaram dam, which is in between the East Godavari and the West Godavari districts of Andhra Pradesh, right. So this is a Polavaram project. So at this point of time, it is being shown that there is an influence up to 150 km of this particular project around this region, where there are almost like 396 small villages. If I am not wrong, there are 396 small villages where the people are being living right now. So here there have been almost like the few areas of the families where they would be merely touching. In Odisha was around like 1002 families, and when it comes to Chhattisgarh, it is 2335 families. and this is the adjoining places of the Odisha. If you see here, if it is the Polavaram, and towards the both horning side you have the Chhattisgarh and Orissa. So this is the families where the Chhattisgarh and Orissa numbers would be there. So what was the main purpose to come up with this Polavaram project is it is actually a multi-purpose irrigation project which has been accorded now as a national project status by the central government. So by having this national government status, the central idea behind the project is that it wants to transfer the water from Godavari to the water deficit which is in Krishna basin. So from Godavari they wanted to transfer the water to the Krishna basin. So whenever this particular Godavari river has flooded, there is a divert of the water which would be happening in excess. So on limelight of it, they are saying that instead of going under the deficit and going under the flooding wasted water, they would be diverting this Krishna river which is in a deficit way. So from Godavari getting diverted to the Krishna river. But what is the problem with this particular Polavaram project is that the only problem, the government should displace nearly 5 lakh people to some other places, as it is occupying like 150 kilometers of the space. So it has to displace 5 lakh people. So if it is to be displaced, then more people to the from the Sardar people than the Sardars are over them, and there is something where they are assuming to be there is a problem in a political interference, where the political interference is actually playing a crucial role when it comes to the Polavaram project as for the diversion and other things and all. On limelight of it is what now the Supreme Court has ordered to have a public hearing on the Polavaram. So what is the people telling? So the Supreme Court had ordered on Thursday, that is yesterday, that the center should hold a public hearing with the people who are actually being affected by this Polavaram dam project which is in Odisha and Chhattisgarh. We also saw in Odisha there are nearly like 1002 families, where in Chhattisgarh it is 2335 families. So here the Polavaram project in Odisha and Chhattisgarh, they have to have a statement on that. So what is it saying? That democracy, the citizens have the right to know what is happening. So here the people have to know to what is happening in those particular places, then the displacement would be happening. So basically now the Supreme Court has called for a public hearing from the people. So here it will be able to voice the grievances about the submergence of their lands or the compensation to what they have to get, the rehabilitation among the other issues, so that the ground level inquiry to whatever has to be done can be done in a proper aspects. On limelight of it is what the Telangana Council Senior Mr. Advocate Vaidyanathan, he said that to whatever the Supreme Court has passed an order now to have a public hearing, this public hearing had already taken place before the bifurcations of the Telangana state. So much before that only they have spoken. So this is something we have already done it. But wherein the appearing for the petitioner, that is NG and the RELA Senior Advocate Jayant Bhushan, what he says that is that to whatever the submissions of the dam design is being done earlierly, now it has got changed, which means that the dam design has been changed and a new components has been added where the people are not aware of it, and they are not even sure whether they have got a new environmental clearances for the same. So this is a argument, counter arguments on the Telangana Council Senior Advocate to what is saying, that the public hearing is done and this person highlights that the design is got changed, and also that we are not sure whether they have got with a new environmental clearance, whether they have to take a requiring environmental clearances for the same. And moreover, there was also a talk which was talking on the violation of the award. So here it was with a bench which is considering whether the dam project and its design as approved by the Central Water Commission. So Central Water Commission is the one which needs to approve the designs for the dam project. So it's asking whether this particular project of the design is been approved by it, and which is in the consonance with the Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal, which was actually awarded in 1980. So this Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal came up in 1980. So there was a series of 13 questions which was been framed before the bench in 2007. Then all the 13 questions were decided into looking back into the waters which have actually affect the project. So now the problem is that they want to examine whether the change in the design of the Polavaram project is been there. So the court has been ordering to examine for the same, and especially if it raises any spillage of discharge capacity. So where it has been having from 36 lakh cusecs to 50 lakh cusecs. So this is a fundamental where they have actually awarded or they have been violated for the Godavari Water Dispute Tribunal, which has been awarded in 1980. So here the cusecs capacity of discharge water should be 30 lakh cusecs to 50 lakh cusecs. So they want to find if there is any kind, they have actually moved on for 50 lakh cusecs, which means that it is also a kind of a violation which is being there. So that what they wanted is they wanted a fresh statutory clearance which has to be obtained for the same. So basically now to make it very clear, the Supreme Court has ordered so that on the Polavaram project dam, the public hearing has to take place, so that the people would be able to tell to what is happening, and they should also know to what is happening around them. So this is about this. So if you are not been knowing about the Polavaram project, kindly Google and get the information, the basic informations on that. So it will be sufficient for you all to understand the entire stories out here. So this is on that. And under page 3 we have this: employees protest the PSU tag on Jammu and Kashmir bank, seeks the rollback. So this is with respect to the employees of the Jammu and Kashmir bank, and now they demonstrating in Srinagar, and they are also demanding that the Governor Satyapal Malik to take back his decision to what he has been decided to declare the bank of, that is Jammu and Kashmir, to be as a PSU, that is a public sector undertaking. So this is the one which has actually brought the fear into the people and to the bank's autonomy in Jammu and Kashmir. On lamlet of it, now you can see here the people who have been gathered here, and they are asking for the rollback of the SAC decision. So it is the center oriented, that is a state administrative council decision to what is being decided by the governor to be taken out. So they wanted to take back this, but they are also warning the government if they are not allowing or if they are not taking out this, which means that they would be facing the consequences, and ramifications of the move would be done by the people. So they don't want the governor and the government to interfere when it comes to the bank's affairs. And you should know that it is a governor based SAC decisions, that is the state administrative council, who have decided where they wanted to convert the bank into a PSU on November 21st. On lamlet of it, this widespread condemnation from the regional parties, civil societies, and also the trade bodies which has been happening. So this is one thing, and you should also know that this is with respect to reconsidering the order. So here the former legislature, that is MY Tarigami, Gulsam Hassan, Mirkam and Akim Yasin, they have actually asked the governor-led administration to respond and to also reconsider the order on the Jammu and Kashmir bank. So this is the news which is right now on the development. So the government has decided to do it, and the people are onto the streets right now, where they are demonstrating then opposition, and they are asking it to roll back. So this one you will be getting it in detail if it continue to be. So in which ways we need to know that whether the government is continuing or it has been rolled back. So this is again in the transition, so you can keep this under hold. So just know what is the basic. On the page 7 we have this: ISRO puts a sharp eye into the orbit. So this is there in the first page as well with a diagrammatic thing, and I ask you all to take that copy as well and keep it aside. So the same thing has been used and is been elaborated in this sentence. So we need not go through with that again, but just that the main highlights to what you have to know. ISIS is nothing but an hyperspectral imaging satellite. So this has been dubbed to be as an sharp eye, and this has been developed by ISRO, and the launch has been done by the PSLV C-43 with respect to 31 satellites. And apart from that, it's not only the single satellite which has been going, it has been accompanied with the small satellites, and those are the ones which has been coming from the countries of Australia, Canada, Cambodia, then we have the Finland, Malaysia, Netherlands and Spain. So the 23 satellites are from USA and the other co-passengers which have been actually boarded up in ISIS. So you should know the location as well. So this particular ISIS, to whatever we are seeing out here, so this one would be injected into the precise orbit, that is like 636 kilometers from the earth. So the areas where it will be wide used is in terms of agriculture, forestry, geological environment, coastal zones and among others. And there was a question to what they have asked is with respect to whether this particular kind of an ISIS technology or observations to what they have done, it would be used into the anti-terror. So on anti-terror wise, they are not sure about it, whether they would be using it or not. But again, that depends, because they are been focusing only to build a satellite which would be giving or which would be working more to be identified as an object. That was the main theme of that. So based on that only they have done it, and other things they have not decided. So these are the areas which will be applicable, and they have not been sure about the anti-terror because they have not designed so, and it can be used as well, but still they have not been spoken on that. So this is about the basic informations on what the ISRO's chairman Mr. Sivan has to say, and this we have already done. So the same thing is here, so you can just have a glance to what is there. So here down you have the Me Too, the group of ministers may review the law. So this is with respect to the group of ministers who have been constituted to examine the sexual harassment at workplace may consider there might be an amending where there would be ensuring for the worker, proper workplace safety. So here, which means that there was an WC, that is a Women and Child Development Ministry, had actually come up to having a meeting agenda with the Home Ministry, because this GOM, that's a group of ministers, is actually been headed by the Home Minister, that is Rajnath Singh. So here both of them have come together to have a meeting of agenda. In that particular meeting, they have spoken that there would be certain changes to what has to be done to the sexual harassment of women and workplace, that is Prevention, Prohibition and the Redressal Act of 2013. So with this particular agenda, to what they have mentioned, it says that there is a lacuna in the land law, as well as the there are certain suggestions where it has to be given for the improvement for the betterment of the same. So this one right now they're coming forward and they wanted to alter the present law of 2013. By altering it, there are certain lacunas in the law, and it has to be improved in a much more better aspect. That's reason WCD and the group of ministers have come together right now. And apart from that, that's a ministry, and apart from that, you should know like who are the people under the group of ministers. So here it is a ministers from road transport, shipping, Nitin Gadkari, and also with respect to defense minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and women and child development minister Maneka Gandhi. So all the people who have been comprised from different ministries would be called as a group of ministers. And apart from that, you should also know that the present of 2013 was much earlier to be called as in Vishaka guidelines. So this Vishaka guidelines was actually given by the Supreme Court back in 1997, where it said that these are the ones which laying a kind of an onus to the employer, where they have to prevent or also deter the acts of those sexual harassment, apart from providing any resolution, settlement or prosecutions of acts of sexual harassment. So they have to prevent it. That is what is the main thing of the Vishaka guidelines. So this particular act, what has been laid down, the duties for an employer. So this has to ensure the safety working place, displaying penal consequences of sexual harassment, creating awareness, as well as facilitating an internal probe. So this is something where the act lays down for the same, and this was something where they need to focus. And here right now on the waves of the Me Too movement, now the WCD ministry and also the group of ministers headed by the Home Minister, they have come together and they wanted, and as per the WC ministry, they're saying that there should be a kind of changes in the law itself. So that is what they are deciding right now. Once they have been deciding, then you get the details for the same. So that at that point of time we will be getting in detail. For now, this is all about it. So under page 12, we have this under the world. It is a phase of Neo Crimea. So this is with respect to the Ukraine president, where he was been suspending on the talks on the trade deal with Europe, which actually led to the protest, and it has now come to an end, where there is also the Ukraine parliament which has approved for a martial law. So the entire timeline back in 2013 to 2018, whatever has happened, you have the list out here. So go through with this particular aspects, and it becomes extremely important for us to understand the position of Ukraine, where is it and what are the adjoining countries which has been there, and all these things plays a vital important role when it comes to the UPSC preliminary examination. As you can see that a lot of questions which has been asked nowadays are purely based on with respect to what are the places which has been accompanied the seas and oceans very next to the places which has actually been repeatedly there in the news. So on limelight of it, the location of Ukraine becomes extremely important for us, and also the adjoining countries. So under page 13, it is the RBI moves to ease the liquidity for non-banking finance firms. So this is with respect to the RBI, which has given a relaxation right now. So this relaxation is only to ensure that there would be more of liquidity which would be available for the NBFCs. So why did the RBI decided to give this kind of an relaxation is because where the government was demanding for having a proper kind of a window where they would be getting certain relaxations for the same. On limelight of it, now the RBI has relaxed the securitization norms by relaxing the minimum holding period requirement. So by giving this minimum holding period requirement to what the government had demanded for a special window for the NBFCs, the RBI is opening the door for the same. And you should also know that here the MHP is nothing but the minimum holding period requirement for originating the NBFCs. So as they would now be allowed to securitize the loans with a maturity of more than 5 years. So earlierly, even before giving this window, special window under the minimum holding period, it was only 1 year, but right now they have given it for 5 years, for the more than 5 years after holding them for 6 months on their books. So here now the relaxation is for 5 years, but as we discussed, comparatively it was 1 year earlierly. So this relaxation on the minimum holding period will be allowed when the NBFC which retains 20% of the book value of these particular loans. So this particular kind of a relaxation would be given to those kinds of an NBAs when they retain this 20% of the book values of these particular loans. They will be able to get availed of this the same. And apart from that, the applicability of this securitization or assignment transactions would be carried out during a period of 6 months from the date of issuance of this particular circular. So which means that as this circular has been given right now, from the date of the time it has been issued, it would take 6 months for it to have a continuation, in sense to get into the part, because they are saying that 6 months from the date of issuance of this particular circular. So that is a time period for 6 months. And apart from that, it is also, you should know that the entire issue of the NBFCs which is being struck into right now under the liquidity crisis is purely because of the NB sector, which is actually facing a liquidity shortage, and this came into limelight of the ILNFS, that Infrastructure Leasing and the Financial Services, which is an investment company. So this particular company, it shells out the money, the loans for the projects for the infrastructure. So on limelight of that, it started defaulting on the loans, which actually resulted in the government where it started dismantling and existing the board of an ILFSS and also installing a new one. So we also know that the government also interfered, and it also ensured that the ILFS would be having a new board of members, and that was being taken over by the Uday Kotak, the member of the Mahindra Kotak Bank. So this is a change in the management which also took place, and the cost of the funds has gone up for non-banking firms, putting pressures on the profitability. So the cost of the funds to whatever the non-banking financial companies have to get it, so it has been gone up, so where they are not been able to make much of the profits right now. So this has been the situation, and here there is one personality we see, and also the India House Finance, Mr. Gangan Banga. So he says that this is what they would be requiring for them in the month of that is November and May 2019. They would raise an additional of 25,000 crores. So in the last 2 months, they have raised around like 24,000 crores. So this is what they have been saying and talking about the past and the present to how they would be calculating, and this is something a best kind of a step toward the RBI has been taken. So it will be helping them in the present situation. And apart from that, the liquidity standpoint where they have been talking is extremely well, and apart from that, to what they are looking out is not on the liquidity, rather they want needed is a growth capital. If the growth capital is shown well, the things would be falling in place. And apart from that, it was also in relaxation to what the RBI has given for the MSC, that is MSMEs, as a minimum micro and the small medium enterprises. So a separate move which has been aimed for boosting the MSME sector exports. So on limelight of it now, the RBI has also given some interest subsidy on the post and the pre-shipment export credit, which has been increased from 3% to 5%. So this is a subsidy which would be available very effective from the November 2nd, which has been there, and this kind of an subsidies or the support or a subsidy for the exporters, they would be getting under the interest equalization scheme on pre and post shipment rupee export credit. So under this particular scheme only, they would be able to get the benefit to what is being given to the MSMEs by the RBI sectors. So this is on that. So on this particular article, we discussed on two things. The first thing is that the RBI has given some relaxation for the securitizations by the relaxing the minimum holding period for requirements, and second one is with respect to boosting the MSME sectors and the exports. So these are the two important things, and this we have already covered in the front page, so we need not do that again. So moving on to the page 18, the life page, and the other business review didn't have any of the information, so we directly jump to the page 18. So this year the news talks on the Reggae gets into heritage list. So this is with respect to the reggae music. To this person, he is Mr. Bob Marley. So he is a person who has actually made this particular music to become more famous. So this is the one which has now secured a coveted spot on the United Nations list of global cultural treasures. So here the UNESCO, this is one of the world's you know, cultural and the scientific agency, which had now added the genre music, that's a reggae, that originated in Jamaica, so to its collections of intangible cultural heritage, which is deemed to be worth of protection and the promotion part. So here the UNESCO actually takes into the list of those kinds of things which has been an intangible cultural heritage on under the UNESCO's list. Now it is the Jamaica, in Jamaica the music which originated was reggae, so which has got the intangible cultural heritage status right now. So this is about that, and you might expect a question to reggae. The UNESCO had recently given a heritage list, so where does it got originated from? So the origination space is from Jamaica. And here you should also know that the UNESCO had noted that to reggae, to what are the music we are talking right now, it had actually started to be as a voice of the marginalized, but now this has been played and it has also been embraced by the wide across sections of the society who are holding various genders, ethnic and also with a religious group. So marginally it was only for those voices of the marginalized, but now it is getting deep rooted and it has been getting proliferated all over. So that is about this news. So only one thing you should know, UNESCO has given an heritage intangible heritage list to the music reggae, and this was been originated in Jamaica. That's it. So here you have the second news, which is on the China halts the gene editing activities on the babies. So we know that the Chinese scientists who are done with the twin editing. So on limelight of it, it is the Chinese scientist who had been stalked with the criticisms of claiming that he created the world's first genetically edited babies, which was been actually getting the pressure into the news entirely from past 2 days. So on limelight of it, now the China has altered and halt to the scientific and actually the activities which has warned he may be broken the laws as well. So now the National Health Commission has actually ordered an investigation on that particular person who has actually done the twin editing. So now which has been condemned and by the scientific and also with the community in China and abroad. So this is about it. So we already discussed 2 days back on the gene editing, so you can just look on to it. This is just a continuation story. So right now the China has been halted to any of the gene editing activities on the babies right now, so they are not allowing it. That's it. So apart from that, the basic informations you have it out here. If you want, you can just look on to it. And here you have this news: electric vehicles send data to Chinese government. So this is with respect to the white Telsa model. So I can see here this particular vehicle is actually an electric vehicle. So this Telsa is actually constantly would be sending the informations about the precise locations of his car to the Chinese government. So this particular kind of an vehicle which has been come out right now, it gives an informations to the Chinese government. So here they are saying that it is a surveillance tool which is actually available to the Chinese government, so that they would be able to take steps by using the technology to track the citizens, that is the Chinese citizens, to what is the problem, or they would be able to transmit possible informations and dozens of other data which would be given to the government from the monitoring departments. From different monitoring centers would be there. So to whatever the cars which has been there, the model X cars, so these X cars are the ones who have been transmitting the informations to the government backed monitoring centers. And this particular kind of an informations or a data to what the government has been secured, it will be able to improve the public safety, facility, industrial development, infrastructure planning, and also they would be able to prevent the fraud in the subsidy programs as well. So this would be wide used on limelight of it. Now there are almost like 200 manufacturers transmit position information, other data points to be monitoring in the centers. So most of the manufacturers have been called for so that they would be able to get the same technology out here. But if you have to check out with the other countries, like the major markets of electronic vehicles like USA, Japan and across the Europe, they have not collected any of these kinds of a real-time data. So it was the US Department Homeland Security under the President George W. Bush. So he was also talking that this kind of information would actually put a bar to the privacies of the people. For each and everything what they do is being tracked, and that might be leading to another kind of a problem which might be associated in the future. So to whatever the China has been made the move, and this is with respect to there might be a changes or there might be a problems where there would be concerns of the next generation vehicles which would be getting more connected with such kind of an data devices. So this might be halting the human beings and sensitivity of the information should be transmitted. But when it comes to the policymakers point of view, they are saying that this kind of a technology would be helping them to track the Chinese citizens and improve their public safety, and also they would be able to plan for a proper development and also infrastructure planning, and at the same time they would be able to prevent the fraud in the subsidy programs. So this is what is been there. So this news is basically where the electrical vehicles have been able to send the data to the Chinese government. So this is all about it. So this particular news is come up on the limelight of when Sean won, when he bought a car and he didn't know that his particular car was giving all the informations to the government. So that's when this became more bigger. And apart from that, it is also these kind of an informations, like it is directly deals with your security to how and what can be done, what are the problems and the challenges associated with that. So that's it, and this I don't think you have it in the Bangalore editorial, so you can just look on to this with this. You can pause the video and check on to what it is, right? And that's it. So these were the important news items for 30th of November 2018. Thank you.